the grid collapses because Nigerians use too much power. Is the demand actually the villain?
The Nigerian power system is in the 1920s UK, US type of system. We have this blame game culture, and it can really confuse the people. So who is to blame if the generator says it's not me, and then the transmission says it's not me, and this disco says it's not me, it's them?
If we generate more power, would this problem be solved?
So let's get it straight. We have installed capacity of generation in this country of about 15,500 megawatts. The amount that can only be transmitted is less than 6,000 megawatts because of network constraints. If generator gets gas to produce 100 units of electricity, but unfortunately they've stolen 10 here, 5 there. Now, so many things can happen. They can share that amount of 30 and say, okay, we will increase the tariff next time because somebody has to pay for all this. So when people are stealing electricity, the rest of us that are not involved, we are paying because they will change tariff to make sure they balance the money for 100. There is a nexus between electricity supply and economic development. You have never seen a country that is economically developed and that is energy poor.
What's the one biggest enemy to our grid?
It's meritocracy. You need those who understand power system development properly. Singapore was a no country some years back, and this guy, Lee Kuan Yew, decided that it's going to change, and they did. And they turned Singapore to what we have today. We should be able to do it.
That moves me into the game changer, as I said, from the electricity bill in 2023. Where the states can now, generate their electricity. It's now, well, how has that changed the landscape since then till now? Because that's 3 years now or so.
Yes, on June, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu resumed office on the 29th of May 2023, and exactly 10 days after, 9th of June 2023, he signed the Electricity Act 2023 as amended into law. And that tells you that he prepared for the job.
Yes.
And if you remember in 2000, when he was in his first time as governor of Lagos State, he was battling the federal government to say, look, let's get this electricity decentralized. Yeah. And he brought the Enron badge to Lagos State. He brought the IPPs to Lagos State. He wanted to decentralize. He knew that that's the way to develop Nigeria. But they fought him. They didn't allow him. So little wonder when he got there, it took him 9 days. He signed it quickly. However, the people that he did it for, the governors, the 36 states and the first states, they didn't take advantage of it. There is a nexus between electricity supply and development, economic development. You have never seen a country that is economically developed and that is energy poor. Have you seen any?
No.
So there is a correlation between the amount of electricity supply in any nation and how buoyant, and how vibrant, how developed that country is. That's what should be in the mind of anyone that says he's a governor of a state, that he loves the state. The person shall know that electricity, provision of electricity services, is the way to get a revamped economy. Sadly, they didn't take advantage of it up until over a year. Kudos to states like Abia, Enugu, that started, Ado Ekiti, Ondo State. Those were the people that started very well. It was in later period that we now started having other states joining and so on and so forth. But this is the game changer. Okay. It is taking that integrated system I've described to you, trying to decentralize it, causing a decentralization so that each region, each state can also develop at their pace and based on the economic requirements and demand of the citizens in that state or region.
Okay, so I want to understand how the layering would work.
Okay.
So you decentralize, but there's still this national grid, and the state, for the sake of this explanation, has its own grid. Does it now become an embedded or a layered system such that in cases where this is faulty, this becomes like a backup, or which one?
Absolutely.
That's what essentially happens.
So the states, for example, Lagos State, for example, we have a market, there will be a state grid. Yes, it's connected to the same national grid as we have it now, but the power generated in Lagos State will serve the citizens of Lagos State. And when we are overfed in Lagos, we have more than enough. You say, okay, Mr. National Grid, do you need some 20 megawatts so I can transfer to you? You say, yes, please. Okay, put it over onto the National Grid. We'll pay you for the 20. And when Lagos State suffers some problems, grid collapse, they say, oh, hang on a minute, Mr. National Grid, can you send me 80 for my people just for us to keep lights on for a while? So that National Grid will be there for the movement of power flows where you want to sell to other parts of the country or when you want to receive from other parts of the country. And that's brilliant.
Which makes me think of the National Grid might become almost a backup system.
Yeah.
If of course, if everything is done appropriately and everything. That's very, very interesting.
In that respect. But in other respect, that will make it possible for Nigeria to now export electricity through the National Grid onto other nations and earn more income. So these generators that have 15,000 megawatts that we can't take because of the transmission they can now send some of this, and they are doing that now. Not enough, because you still need that transmission network to send that particular part.
So that needs to be upgraded. Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are many ways to even further beyond oil and gas to bring in
this
more
is
revenue
new
for
oil
the
power
for the state. Oh, wow, that's interesting. And the states too would, of course, generate revenue by selling back to the grid.
Yes.
And I know abroad, and you know this very well, even individuals and consumers, when they have excess power, can sell back to the grid. Be it they have solar panels on that. So there's still a lot of integration that can happen where, and consumers can also benefit from where they are as well. Wow. There's a lot to
and
do.
that's already happening in Nigeria, the net billing operation, where means your solar and there is a net billing metering regulation where the solar you have on your own house in Nigeria, they can quantify it and give you some money back, and which is what you are describing that happens overseas. So you now become what we call prosumers, because you are both a consumer and a producer of electricity, and that will make income for Nigerians.
Oh, that's great. I think over time, as things develop, things will move forward. Yeah. So I have some quick fire questions, and just off the top, it could be very short. We might have discussed some of it before. I'll skip the first one, which was National Grid becomes a backup system. We've already discussed that. These state grids, am I right to call it mini grids?
Well, yeah.
So will it make the National Grid a failure or a future?
It makes it more reliable than it is now.
Okay.
And it makes it to think differently and also seek opportunities in West African power pool, for example.
Okay.
Seek further regional integration in terms of electricity supply. It also makes the total experience in power system of Nigeria to be better, because if you take the situation in Aba when there was grid collapse, the people didn't feel it. So imagine that situation existed in 36 states and the FCT at that time. Once the grid collapse happened, only people will be hearing it on the news. They say, oh, it's collapsed. We don't know, because we're experiencing. So the impact will start to go down. And that's why President Bola Ahmed Tinubu signed that document immediately, if only the governors have taken advantage of it.
Which brings me to the next question. In your opinion, again, will states outperform the federal based on this act now, this bill that's come out? In your opinion, will states, or do you think it's just the ones that take it seriously?
Exactly, because it will have been my desire. If Witches were houses, I would say, all the states by now will have signed on to it. But that's not what has happened, So some states do what they like with finance, and it's always in public domain.
Yes.
What states concentrate. We know what some local governments do in some parts of the country. They are bigger than what some governors do in their states. And we know states that are taking electricity serious. We know those ones who are not. So the expectation will have been that all the governors will take it serious, because they will remember that providing electricity for their people will rejuvenate their economy, because people will now start to make ice block and sell. And somebody will now start to do iron smelting. Somebody will now have to do energy-intensive businesses. Somebody will then ice fish and have a cold room. Somebody is going to think and say, okay, there's this thing that can be doing and it needs electricity. But because of the availability of electricity, the economy starts to, you get more tax. And then you start having money to develop your economy. You have less crime because of the fact that there's electricity, and so on and so forth. So the multiplier effect is there. But the challenge we have now is for state governments to take advantage of the Electricity Act and electrify their states.
So off the top of my head, the way I'm looking at it is, if some states, well, you can't control everyone, right? The bill was done and was signed, which is great. What will start happening is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a lot of migration will happen. The states that do well with this, you will start seeing industries moving towards that. And I think maybe once those ones start popping off and we see it, I believe maybe people start falling in line. And that's our hope.
Healthy competition will happen.
Yes.
Because Aba now is experiencing influx of industries just because of these two experiences that happened this year. They say, wow, so we shall move in there. And that's what will happen. They will move there because the cost, when you want to be competitive as a country, electricity cost is a very major factor in your manufacturing sector.
Yeah.
And so if the cost of electricity is cheaper somewhere, is reliable somewhere, people will go there.
Speaking on cost, can we accept cost-reflective power now?
The matter of cost reflectivity of tariff is a very, very touchy one. It's a chicken and egg situation, a catch-22 case, where which one comes first? Is it the chicken or the egg? So which one comes first? Is it for them to invest in the network and give us power supply that is reliable and then say, look, this is the amount for it? Or is it to charge us upfront and say, well, if you want this amount of electricity, pay this, and then they work for about 10 years to get us there? So, in my opinion, it's the other way around. You need to provide the electricity first. You need to provide people with constant and reliable electricity and gradually work up your way in terms of the increase in tariff. Plus, we don't have data. There is no way we can reliably prove that the cost people are paying now is not reflective. There's no way to prove it because there's no data. And so, if you say 60 naira per kilowatt hour, is it small? Is it big? 209, which is band A, is it small? Is it big? We can't say. So but
surely it should be reflective from, well, I'm assuming generation, from the GenCos to the transmissions, the discos, wherever they're paying has already sort of embedded in that. Surely, that's just off the top of my head.
Yeah, you are right.
The discos have to be profitable, right?
Yeah.
So whatever they're selling it, for that, if we forget about the disparate band 8 or whatever it is, it's quite large, right? Surely in between there, one of those numbers is cost plus profit.
Yeah.
Surely.
Yeah.
Because I'm hoping it doesn't go more than band A. That's why I'm saying that.
Right? Yeah. You are right. You say it's cost plus profit. But now the elements of the cost,
okay,
there are ways that the numbers can be fiddled with and it will cost the increase in tariff. So this transparency in the methodology, which they call multi-year tariff or the MAETO, the methodology for determining this tariff needs public scrutiny.
Okay.
So that we're sure that it's not being overlayered to give excessive cost to consumers. And that's one of the things yourselves can be doing to discuss more about how these tariffs are arrived at, how the changes are come to arrived at, and how the inflation as well as forex exchange rates affect these values, because they do.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much. Now, it brings me to, we spoke about generation and the sources. Nigeria is mainly gas, a bit of hydro. If you look elsewhere in the world, they have a mix of that. And what's your opinion, or what do you think we need to do about the future in terms of supply? I'm inquisitive to know that surely
we should use all mixes of energy. Solar,
we can
wind,
have a lot of
all of them.
Gas,
Coal.
because we're a gas nation.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But for reliability's sake, for example, that sometimes the gas prices might be a lot higher.
Yeah.
We need to have that mix. Raining season, the times the dams are a lot more flooded, Hydro should be able to carry bulk of it.
That's what will happen in the state electricity market. They were going to say, okay, Lagos State, what do I have? Kaduna State, what do I have? I have this hydro, I have this water, and then I have wind. Okay, Sokoto State, I have a lot of wind. They're going to generate from it. We have very sunny, so they're going to use a lot of solar systems there. And they will have very good power supply because the sun is almost there throughout the day.
Yeah.
And they can now use in the night backup systems, and they can even store this energy from the sun during the day. In Lagos, in Delta State, where they have oil and gas, they're going to use it. I expect that in the East, where they have coal, they are going to, if it is the type that can generate electricity for them, they are going to invest in it and have coal-fired power station. And all of this should be required to industrialize Nigeria. That's the most important thing first.